Hi my dear gardening friends! Today in this video I'm going to talk how I put my garden to bed. The leaves are starting to fall, it's getting colder in the morning, and we can see that the trees are changing, so change is coming. Fall is in the middle of its strength, and we have to put our gardens to bed, unfortunately, because I enjoy my garden so much that it's always kind of sad to prepare my garden for the fall and winter. But I know that spring will be coming next year, and all the excitement and the energy will be back. So the biggest work during the fall in my garden will be in my porch. As you can see, everything is slowly coming down in its blooming vigor. Not my verbena. Verbena is still happily growing here. But all the pots in this area probably this week, oops, my mosquito spray is here. So as you can see, my marigolds are coming to the end of its blossoms, and maybe this week I will start taking them down out from their pots. I'm not going to put them into the recyclable bags where I recycle all the waste from the garden, because I fertilized those pots with artificial fertilizers, and I don't want that fertilizer to be in my compost piles. So marigolds will go into usual garbage and they will be thrown away. Now, as you can see, we have here pots, porcelain pots, and they are not good to be outside to overwinter, because our winter zone 7, borderline 6, are very cold. So if I let these pots sit in outside, they will crack. Maybe not at the beginning of winter, but at the end of winter, they will crack, and I will have to throw them away. So we are not doing that. So these pots would be emptied. I'm not going to keep this lemon balm because I really, it's very invasive, so I'm going to be using something different next year in these pots. Now that pot also will be gone. Our verbena bonariensis, is a perennial from zone 7 and up, and since we live in zone 7, it's a borderline for this verbena. But verbena, I'm treating verbena as an annual. So this year verbena will be taken out from the pot, and I will put this pot away. Now sedums, you see these beautiful, nice, lovely sedums here? They finished their blossoming time. Look how interesting they look. Even when they finish their blossoming, they look so interesting. The combination of color of leaves and the mustard color of seed pods, it's a very interesting combination. But what I will do with this sedum intentionally is planted in plastic pots. You see, that is plastic pot. This one is a plastic pot, and these are not. That one is also a plastic pot right there. So these sedums will go into winter in their plastic pots, because plastic contracts and expands together with the weather, and it doesn't crack. So, and sedums can overwinter. These sedums are hardy to zone 3, 4, and they can overwinter outside. So what I will do with them, when they start failing, I will just cut the stems and will just keep these pots out on the porch. But otherwise, all other pots would be washed. I will dig out the dirt, the soil from the pots, and I have a special place in the corner right there in my garden where I put all the soil from the pots in one pile. I don't want to mix it with all other garden soils, because we add artificial fertilizers in pots. That's the only place where I use artificial fertilizers in my garden. So I don't want to mix it with other soil in my garden. I keep it in the one pile where next spring I will just reuse it again, and we'll use it again in the pots for next spring. So that's it with my porch. This sedum, look at this. This is autumn fire sedum. I don't think this sedum is very happy in the pot. Look, you see how it started to fail a little bit, the leaves, and that started quite early in the season, so this sedum is not really pot friendly, let's put it this way. So this sedum would be planted out into the front of my garden. He's not really happy in the pot, so I'm not going to torture him here. And I will store all the ceramic pots inside of the garage for winter. Now, roses. Roses are totally different story to overwinter, and I will devote the full video about how I overwinter roses successfully in my garden. So I'm not going to talk in detail about them here because they do require all sorts of different attentions in the fall. Now you see this area of development here? There was a big black currant bush here. And after many years of fighting it, meaning not fighting, but trying to figure out what's wrong with that bush, I finally came to the conclusion that it probably is, at the end, just a bad type of blackcurrant bush, because I bought it from the nursery and I didn't really know what type of bush it is. I didn't save the tag. Very good to save the tags when you buy your plants. So finally, I'm just taking it out. I'm tired of it, and I'm not sure what gardeners love better, the empty spot in their gardens where they can plant something exciting, or already filled up spot. I think the gardeners get very excited about the empty spot in their garden, especially like me, who don't have a lot of land around their houses. So this area is going to be also redesigned for next year. And I don't know what to do yet. I mentioned to my kids, maybe roses, and kids said, "Mom, come on, too many roses is just too much," my daughter said. But we will see. Maybe I will be able to persuade folks to agree to a rose bush here. Or maybe it would be some sort of a berrying bush again. I don't know. But I'm going to take those root systems out and prepare the soil for next spring, for next planting. So this is what's happening here. Now, I make sure that I stay on top of the weeds to the very end of the fall in the garden, because there are some opportunistic weeds which are just germinating now, and they are setting flowers very quickly and they're setting seeds very quickly. So if you were fighting weeds for the whole summer in your garden, now is the time just to double down, because seeds love those opportunistic seeds, they love to develop really fast in the middle of the fall and create seeds and spread them throughout the garden. Now, another thing, the grass in my garden, I would say that I'm very low key in putting my garden to bed, because I know that nature was taking care of itself for many thousands of years before I came here. So I kind of rely on nature to do its own thing in the garden. I just make sure that leaves are not staying on the grass, because grass will disappear under the layer of leaves. Especially we have, you see these guys? We have maple trees around here. That is a big maple tree, and maple leaves tend to get very clumpy and soggy together, and they create this unpenetratable level of barrier which can really block the sun and air from grass. So keep that in mind. If you want to protect your roses with the help of leaves, make sure that you don't use the maple leaves for that. But I will talk about it in my future videos. Now what I do here we have 2 raised beds, and one of the beds I'm using as my little propagation bed. But this bed next year we are going to use for all sorts of vegetables maybe. So I know that the soil here is not the best. So what I'm going to do for the fall, I will dig it up and will add, I already bought cow manure from Home Depot, and I will add maybe 3 bags of cow manure here, 3-4 bags of cow manure, together with leaf compost, which I created myself. I will be showing you how I will be doing it. So I'm going to dig it into the soil, let it for the winter, for nature to do its own thing, for the worms to come in and create a nice, beautiful environment for spring planting for me. Now here we have also cedar. I'm going to just trim it. Once the first frost comes, I will trim the sedum because it will start failing. All these juicy succulent leaves will be dying off during the first several frosts. So I will be trimming the sedum. I wouldn't cover it with nothing. Sedum is hardy and it will overwinter in this pot all right. Now, as for arborvitaes, very important to keep off your arborvitaes in the fall well hydrated, because they do need that hydration going into the winter. What happens, they are evergreen trees and they do lose water during winter, and they need that water to stay green and healthy and not to suffer from lack of water in winter. So if you have arborvitaes, don't forget about them during the fall. Make sure that you water them very well. Now this our wood for winter fireplaces all here. Now what's going on here? Our boxwoods, nothing to do with boxwoods. They're going into winter with no maintenance, nothing. Next spring I will give them a haircut and we'll start training them as a hedge here. These little guys, these little boxwoods, they share space here. I don't know if you know from my previous videos, but I'm trying to create a boxwood hedge around here. So what I did to create a little bit of shade and use the space, I planted parsley here between boxwoods. Strange combination, I know, but it worked well. We had plenty of parsley for our kitchen needs, plus boxwoods was happily growing here. As you can see, boxwood is still little here. You see little guys. Aww. It will take them some time to reach their healthy, mature age, but at least they got used to my garden all right, and they are growing happily here. So what I will do, I will make sure that my sticks are much higher, because if snow falls, these sticks can be buried in the snow, and since we have a lot of happy feet running around this garden, I don't want those feet to forget that boxwoods are growing under the snow and accidentally step on them. So I have already these big, long sticks here, and they're going to be used to stick them around my boxwoods, and this way everybody knows Mom's boxwoods are growing here. So that's it for that. Come here, follow me here. Here we have another set of boxwoods growing here. I will let them grow over winter, the same procedure, big sticks around them. I will move out parsley. As you know, parsley is biennial plant. Next year, parsley will be creating a lot of long stalks with seed heads. I'm not going to let them do that. I will just take them out maybe in a week or two, and we'll leave the boxwoods to overwinter with hopefully no problems here. Now, this big guy, just look at this guy here. He's a very handsome knotweed, I believe, but he is going down big time, all the way to the ground. I'm taking all this big canopy down and throwing it away, because I don't want all these seeds. You see these beautiful, handsome berries. I don't want them to disperse all over my garden. So all this would be taken down to the root level, and this area would be kind of bare for the winter, but that's okay. Rose bushes, totally different story how to put them to bed. We will focus on that later. Now look at my climbing rose here. What I didn't do any severe trimming on this climbing rose this year. It's just too much going on right now, so I made sure that I tied all the big canes up, and in spring I will take care of it. In spring I will do my major pruning. But now what I do in the fall, I make sure that I collect all the falling leaves from the area around the climbing rose, and I throw it away. I totally don't compost it. Another thing what I do, all the good waste in the garden, I compost it. I have these big black plastic bags. And by the way, here is the video how I do the composting in my garden. So I put all the garden waste, I put it in those plastic bags, and I tuck them around in little corners in my garden where nobody can see them. And because they're black, they're hard to see. And I keep them during the winter in those plastic bags. And eventually it takes them more than a year to partially decompose, and I use that material to bring it back into my garden and bring back the nutrients into our soil. So this is how I take care of the garden going into fall. Again, roses, preparing them for the winter is a different story, and I will do a separate video on those. I'm not really a very neat person cleaning the garden into fall. I leave leaves around because leaves protect the soil from dehydrating and from punishing winds in the fall. So I let leaves accumulate in corners of my garden. I just make sure that leaves don't stay on the grass. So I hope you're enjoying your gardens. And if you don't have a garden, come to my garden and enjoy it with me. Happy gardening, and I will see you next time.